Okay, testing. Okay, I can see the sound wave bouncing. Okay, now I decided to break the last video into two parts, right? Or else it's gonna be way too long, right? So let us continue with the past paper. For this first video, let us focus on the MC questions first. So let us go to page 16 of your notes. Okay. Now here, this is 2013, okay, question 31, right? Initially, an economy operates at full employment equilibrium, right? So basically, right, we have no gap, Y equals to YF, right? And the government expenditure equals to tax revenue, originally these two, right? Now, which of the following will result in a coexistence of deflationary output gap and budget deficit? 即係咩意思啊? Okay, now first of all, let's revise. What is a deflationary gap, right? Basically, we are talking about deflationary. We are underperforming. So this one, y smaller than yn, 係咪？原來啦, in order to reach from here to here, what do we need? We need basically y to drop or yf to increase, which is quite unlikely, okay? This one quite unlikely. Most likely, we need y to decrease, 係咪？起碼有 deflationary gap 啦。第二個 budget deficit, right? We need G to be somehow larger than T. This one, we have two directions. Either we are spending more and or our tax decreases, right? So let's see which one. The first one, a reduction in taxes, okay? This one would satisfy budget deficit, right? This one would satisfy budget deficit, which is okay, 係咪？呢個中嘅。What about the next one? What happens to the deflationary gap, right? Remember our reduction in taxes basically at the same time would result. Now let's assume this is a direct tax. Let's assume direct tax. So what happens if you remember, right? C and I would increase, therefore Y would increase. Not exactly the point that we want, right? We want Y to decrease. So A is incorrect. Okay, 好啦，第二個啦 reduction in money supply, right? Remember, money supply decreases, we know at the end Y will decrease. So we have one meeting. 好啦，但係記住喎，第二樣嘢啦。When Y decreases, Y another name is called real income, right? 經濟差咗, then income would also decreases. What does that mean? It means that when our income decreases, we have less income tax would also decrease. Therefore, T tax revenue would also decrease. Seems that this is also correct. 睇嚟 B 係答案啦。不過 check 埋 C 同 D 先，好嘛？ Let's check C and D. A reduction in government expenditure. We know that this one, reduction in government expenditure, 第一個已經死咗啦，係嘛？ G decreases already, not the things that we want, right? 係咪？如果 G 跌咗 then we'll have a surplus, not deficit, right? So not the answer we want. And finally, a reduction in desire to import. 如果 import 少咗啲咩意思啊？ Less import, meaning NX would increase, therefore Y would increase. 咁就死啦，係嘛？ Not the answer that we want. Therefore, answer would be B here. Okay? 好嘛？嗱 what about next one? In an economy with severe inflation and income inequality 嗱，你見到啦，呢兩隻字咩字嚟㗎？ If you check the last page, is objective 2 and 4， 咪我哋嘅2同4咯，係咪啊？ Here severe inflation price level, right? Basically, price level too high, 係咪啊？ Income inequality, the government can lower price level and reduce the income gap. 我哋而家啦 first we need price level to decrease, then income gap, we need it to decrease, reduce the income gap. Let's say how? Increase the environmental tax on handling. Okay, I think this one should be handling, right? Handling household sewage. Okay, boys, environmental tax. What kind of tax is that? If you remember, this definitely is a regressive tax. Now, if we are increasing regressive tax, what would happen, right? Definitely, the income gap would increase. Not exactly the things that we want，已經唔中啦，OK？好啦，another thing，if we have more environmental tax，即係咩意思啊？These are indirect tax，most likely SRAS would decrease，係嘛？SRAS would decrease，係嘛？因為而家成本貴咗啦。So what happens next? With ever SRAS decrease, what happens to price level? If you remember, it's going to increase 兩個都死晒，唔使問啦。Okay, both dimensions died. Okay, now what about B, right? Increase the salary tax and its progressivity. Okay, 好嘛？First tax 啊，唔係呢隻筆。First tax increase, meaning our AD most likely would decrease because of less consumption and investment. Now, therefore, we know price level would decrease. OK，好啦，第二樣啦。What about this one? Salary tax and its progressivity. 一見到 progressive 呢個字啦 ，when progressivity increases, what happens? The gap would decrease. Seems like B would be our answer. 不過 let's check C and D first, okay? Reduce spending on social welfare 呢個唔解啦 okay? Social welfare, if we decrease this, right? Social welfare decrease, it means that the gap would increase because social welfare aims to help people who needs it, okay? 要嗰啲人收少咗，咁個 gap 咪大咗咯 okay? So not exactly the things that we want, okay? Not exactly the things we want. 好啦，最後啦。Reducing personal allowance on the salary tax. Basically, this is the opposite of B, okay? Opposite of B. OK, B 啱咁即係 D 錯啦，係咪？基本上倒轉啦 ，because less personal allowance, OK, it means that you need to increase. Yes, it does increase the salary tax. 少咗 allowance 係俾多咗㗎，but then when allowance is decreased, it also means that progressivity basically decreases. Okay, progressivity basically decreases. It because poorer people suddenly their tax rates would increase. 冇咗 allowance 即係冇錢嘅人都要俾稅咯。OK， 即係冇錢嘅人都要俾稅咯。OK, so this one not exactly the answer we want because it's going to make the gap. Okay, the gap would increase. 好啦，跟住下一條啦。You see, I don't give you the options because we're going to look at each and every one of them. Okay, the government build new infrastructure. Okay, infrastructure 咁有乜嘢會 increase 啊？increase 啊，OK, increase 啊。Employed population, of course, because you need people to build infrastructure. Therefore, right, our employed population will increase. Price level, why? Because I increases, AD increases. Then we know P price level increases. Yes, this is true. Potential output level 點解啊？記住啦 ，infrastructure, our production capacity would increase. Therefore, LRAS and YF increases. Yes, therefore, number 3 also correct. Price level after the construction is completed. LRAS increases. Then price level decreases, right? So this is true. I think this is also true. Okay. Now, unless, right? Unless we also need to look at here, 係咪？因為 AD 曾經升過啊。Okay. 係咪？ Unless we are looking at this. Okay. But I think if they talk about after the construction, I already passed. Okay. So most likely this is also correct, most likely, unless you are arguing that the price level, the effect on I is looming, 仍然個 I 嘅 effect 仲有 but this one only works, I think, in long questions, right? In MC, most likely this one is also correct. So all of them are correct. OK，好嘛，好嗱，let's go to the next page。next page，好啦，嗱開始難啦，你見啊，呢 gap 啊，咩 surplus 啊，撈埋一齊就難啦，開始會。OK，initially at E here y equals to YF and fiscal budget is balanced。OK，G equals to T。OK，兩樣嘢啦。In short run 啊，講明嘅 short run 啊。Economic recoveries of trading partner，你先諗下 trading partner 關我經濟咩事啊 ？Whenever talk about trade, if you remember，我如果而家 trading partner，if the trading partner's economy becomes better, what happens? Their demand for our goods, for our local goods would increase。好啦，人哋買多咗我嘅。Other people buying my goods. What do we call this? We call this export increase. NX increase, therefore AD increases. Okay, 好嘛 Y increases in the short run. When Y is larger than YF, we have an inflationary gap. 所以先用 D 死咗啦。好啦，記住咯喎 ，when Y increases, what do we call this? We call this real income increase。好啦 ，income 多咗，咁即係咩意思啊 ？Because when Y increases, more people work, right? More people work, more income. Then income tax also increases. So G would be smaller than T. Suddenly, you get more money than you spend money. We call that fiscal surplus，係咪突然間賺多咗錢咯 ？So A will be our answer. OK， 得唔得？好 ，next one. Under which of the following situations may a fiscal deficit and a trade deficit be eliminated? 慢慢嚟，慢慢嚟。OK, fiscal deficit. What is that? It means that my spending is more than tax. Trade deficit. 咩叫 trade deficit 啊 ？Do you remember? Right? Trade deficit. Basically, our import is larger than export. So let's see. 第一個 decrease in nominal interest rates. If you remember, whatever rates decreases, then AD increases, Y increases. 你哋好似係 YY 嘅，係嘛 ？Y increases. 好啦，而家啦 ，now we have more Y. For our purpose, income tax increases. So here, it's going to eliminate the first one. Okay, the first one we get it right. 好啦 what about trade deficit？ 記住啦 ，AD increases, price level increases。我啲嘢貴咗啊 ，so what happens? The QD for export， 人哋買我啲嘢會買多定買少啊 ？My things becomes more expensive, so the quantity demanded from foreign countries， 我嘢貴咗嘛，買少咗咯 ，would decrease。Okay, QD for my domestic goods. What does that mean? It means that export will further decrease。咁啊死火啦，即係唔中啦。Now already export not enough, further decrease。No， 咁即係2、3個答案。But let us also check, right? Let us also check. Depreciation of the economy's currency。嗱呢個有啲難嘅。We need to go to chapter 25 in order to talk about this. But for now, let's try. Okay, when I depreciate, what does that mean? It means that the price of my goods in terms of foreign currency， 用人哋嘅 currency 嚟計我啲嘢 is going to decrease。咩意思啊 ？QD would increase。嗱頭先上面有啦 ，QD increase what does that mean? It means that export would increase。then it's going to eliminate。OK， 好啦 ，export increase what does that mean？ 係嘛 ？When export increases, Y increases。好啦，咁即係咩意思啊？Our tax increase 係嘛 ？So this one, yes, correct. It's going to save both trade deficit and fiscal deficit。多咗稅收啊。OK， 好嘛 ？So number 2 correct. Number 3 increase in income tax 咁啊，唔使問啦，呢個啦。T increases 本身已經中咗啦。Income tax increases。OK， 你小心嘅呢個個未字嘅有可能啊。 Okay, income tax increases. So this one is correct. 我哋陣間先翻嚟，呢度有機會唔啱㗎。This one may not be correct, but since the word is may, okay，好嘛？好啦 ，what about the trade deficit? Okay, now with more income tax, what does that mean? It means that our since direct tax increases, then most likely AD would decrease because of less YD and less investment, right? 咩意思啊 ？Price level decreases. Refer to this one 係嘛？而家我 price level 跌咗啦 ，therefore export would increase. Okay, it's going to save it as well. Okay， 好啦，所以啦，你見到3啊 ，it can be correct。阿 Sir， 有咩情況之下唔啱啊 ？This is a very tricky question. With income tax increase, obviously, the tax payment of employed 仍然做嘢嗰啲會升咗。This is correct. But then remember, this incentive effect 即係咩意思啊 ？Will be fewer worker， 其實會少咗人做嘢㗎。Therefore, the number of tax payer would decrease. You see, these two are conflicting forces. Therefore, you see this one, I put a tick and a cross. 有機會啱，有機會錯 depending on which effect is larger. But remember, the question is may. Therefore, if it is possible, then it is correct. OK， 嗱，小心啲記住啊 ，income tax, profit tax, not easy. On one hand, you get more tax payment from those who are paying, but then there will be fewer people paying taxes. 唔做啦，大佬，攞綜援算啦，係嘛 ？So be very careful. It may not be correct, but it may be correct. OK， 好嘛？好，now what about next one? 2017, to reduce fiscal deficit may adopt either contractionary fiscal policy, okay, expansionary monetary policies, okay， 好嘛？好得意啊呢度，係咪啊？ Which of the following are the advantage of using expansionary monetary policy over contractionary fiscal policy? 記唔記得咩叫 contractionary， 咩叫 expansionary 啊 ？Expansionary, why increase? Contractionary, why decrease? Y 升 Y 跌即係咩意思啊 ？Here, employment would increase, employment would decrease. 咩意思啊 ？Employment level would be higher. Exactly, number one. 係咪啊？好啦 ，real output level would be higher as well. 好啦 ，purchasing power of money. How do we determine that? Remember, I'm so sorry. Okay, I'm so sorry. 跌咗支筆啦 I'm so sorry. Right? 好啦，嗱 here. Purchasing power of money. On another hand, if we know employment level increases, for example, increased by printing money, for example, 佢話啦 printing money supply increases, interest rate decreases, then AD increases. 好啦 ，AD increase 係咩意思啊 ？Price level increase. 好啦 ，whenever price level increases, what does that mean? It means that purchasing power of money will decrease. Okay, so not exactly. Number 2, not exactly correct. So answer 1 and 3. Okay, 掂唔掂？好 ，next page. Here, the diagram below shows the aggregate demand curve, short run, and 呢個叫咩 gap 啊 ？What do we call this, right? Here you see Y is smaller than YF. This is a deflationary gap, right? 係咪 initially 好啦 total import value equals total export 係嘛 ？So here X equals to M. 好啦 the government decreased the social security assistance in short run. The deflationary gap would what happen? 佢話而家有個 deflationary gap 啦，會發生咩事啊？If we decrease social assistance，記唔記得啊？ social security assistance. Is that G? No, but we know that with it decrease, it means that YD would increase. It would decrease. Therefore, AD decreases, Y decreases. 咁啊死火啦！ We further drop our AD to here. Okay, what happens to the gap? We know that the gap becomes wider. 咪肥咗咯，係嘛？ Now with this set, right? 好啦， we know decrease in AD. What happens? Price level decreases. 頭先講咗啦 when my things becomes cheaper, what happens? Export 係咪啊？ The QD for export would increase. OK， 咦 ？export 會上升啦，咁即係發生咩事啊 ？There will be a trade surplus. OK, X larger than M. OK, answer will be 唔係黐線 trade surplus. Answer will be D. 黐咗線。OK OK 得唔得？嗱 answer will be D。好啦，跟住啦 ，deflationary gap, fiscal deficit 咩叫 deflationary gap 啊 ？Y smaller than YF. Fiscal deficit G larger than T. Would narrow the gap and reduce fiscal deficit at the same time. 嗱，呢類題目係最難㗎。You need to take care of both. OK， 好嘛？好，第一個啦 ，increase government expenditure on infrastructure. What does that mean? It means that on infrastructure， 唔好理係 G 定 I 啦，好嘛？嗱 ，mostly will be I, right? I increases, then AD increases, then Y increase. OK, so this one would eliminate. OK, eliminate the gap. OK 嘅呢個，好啦 ，then fiscal deficit， 但係啦 ，now government expenditure increase, G further increase, what happens to the deficit? So the deficit would get worse， 對唔住啊？政府再使錢，即係赤字上赤字 ，no A not the correct answer。OK 好嘛？第二個啦 ，reducing profit tax rate, what happens if we reduce profit tax rate, right? Then we definitely will have more I. Then here Y increases. 中咗第一個 OK, but now if we reduce the profit tax rate, right? Most likely our profit tax may decrease. May 嗱，我講係may啊，may decrease. Remember, with lower profit tax rate, we also have more firms. Therefore, tax may increase. 好啦，咁即係升定跌啊？ We don't know. Therefore, can it definitely reduce the fiscal deficit? 係咪 ？Can it definitely reduce deficit? We don't know. 係嘛？我哋唔知得唔得嘅，我哋唔知得唔得嘅，tick 點咗佢先，唔知得唔得？睇埋 C 同 D。好啦，C 啦 ，increase tax rebate on salary tax. Tax rebate on salary tax. What does that mean? 一樣啫嘛。C increases, Y increases. It can help, right? It can help. But then I think that if we have more tax rebates, 係咪 which means that tax we are getting less tax. 但係同樣啦，係咪 with more tax rebate, the same, more workers. Then tax may increase. So does it increase or decrease? We don't know. 一樣嘅啫 ，B 同 C 同出一次。好啦 ，allowing more tourists to travel to country visa free， 即係咩意思啊？嗱 ，more tourists 記唔記得 ？Tourist export of service increase, therefore Y increases. Okay, when Y increases, what does that mean? It means that we have more income tax, 係咪啊？ So income tax increases, therefore it can eliminate. Answer will be D. 嗱，唔係 B、C 錯啊，但係 D 一定啱。Okay, we're not saying B and C must be wrong, but we're saying D must be correct. Okay, all good. 好啦，嗱。Let's try the final question. Okay, here, suppose an inflationary gap and a fiscal surplus exists. Make your inflationary gap here, Y larger than YF. Okay, fiscal surplus, G smaller than T. Okay, would help narrow the gap and attain a balance. 好啦，睇下啦 ，reduce quota for inbound tourists. 而家唔俾咁多 tourists 入嚟 ，so export decreases. Okay, export decreases. Y decreases. 好啦，頭先上面解咗啦。Y decreases income tax decreases. So T would decrease. 咦，咁好似中喎，係咪啊 ？Here Y decreases，因為而家 Y 太大啊嘛，而家 T 太大啊嘛，係咪啊 ？This one would also seems 好，睇嚟 A 係答案啦。But let's see B, C and D。OK， 好啦。Rising income tax rate. Do I need to explain again？ 係嘛？睇嚟唔使再解啦，同上面一樣啦，係咪啊 ？This one just refer to BC。OK， 自己睇啦 ，refer to BC。OK， 好嘛 ？Adopting a universal retirement protection scheme。OK， 咩意思啊 ？This one。OK，at least G would increase， 肯定 G would increase that。But what happens, right？ For age 係咪 ？This one does that affect Y？ I don't think so, right？ 而家啦，我係退休計劃令到佢勁咗，會唔會令到個 Y 轉變 ？Is there any effect on AD and on AD and SRAS, LRAS? I don't think so, right? So C not exactly the answer。好啦，最後啦 ，increase government expenditure on infrastructure， 我哋好似有答過上面係咪啊 ？OK， here just refer to answer A。OK， refer to answer A。好嘛 ？So this one just look at it on your own。好似仲有一條嘅 MC。Yes, one more, and then we end this video. Already 20 something minute。我哋之後仲有一條啊。OK， 好嘛 ？Here, right？ following is expansionary。咩叫 expansionary 啊 ？Boys remember expansionary means why need to increase open market purchase。purchase 咩意思啊 ？Money supply increases, so why increase？ 第一個鐘 rise in discount rate 記唔記得 ？Whatever rate increase, we know AD decreases。唔中 ，OK？So policy one must be wrong。好啦，睇下 open market purchase。你中咗 rise in salary tax allowance。OK， 咩叫多咗 allowance 啊 ？Basically this one the tax payment would decrease， 多咗免稅額咪即係俾少咗稅咯。What happens? AD increases, so Y increases。好，第二個都中。OK，it seems that B is the answer。睇埋 C 先，好嘛 ？Salary tax allowance 我哋知道啦 ，discount rate 頭先講咗唔中 ，therefore answer will be B。Alright, and that concludes this video. In the next and the last video, we are going to look at the long questions. Okay, see you in the next video then. Bye bye.